Yo, what up, Night Nation? You're tuned into the UCF Football Updates podcast. Wanted to do an impromptu podcast about this weekend's game. The Knights head up to New Orleans to face the Tulane Green Wave. And the reason why I want to do a special podcast just for this game is huge. This is a game with the type of stakes that UCF just quite simply hasn't had since the 2018 season. If you look at the seasons since then, 19, 20, 21, UCF was essentially out of the conference title race by early to mid-October. And now we're in mid-November, with 3 weeks left in the regular season, and UCF is in the heat of the race. They are in second place in the conference at 4-1. And they're going up against the first place team in the conference, Tulane, who is 5-0, undefeated in the conference. So the stakes for this game couldn't get bigger. I mean, let's talk about what's on the line here. First of all, both teams are nationally ranked, right? You have number 17 Tulane. This is the first time they've been ranked in years. And you have number 22 UCF. UCF and Tulane are the only two teams that are ranked currently, group of five teams that are currently ranked in the CFP, the College Football Playoff Poll. And as we know, the New Year's Six Bowl is awarded to the highest ranked group of five conference champion. So at this point, as currently where we stand in the standings right now, the only two teams that are eligible, obviously things can change with wins and losses, are Tulane and UCF. They're both ranked and they're both the top two teams in the conference right now. So UCF hasn't played for a conference championship since 2018. UCF hasn't been to a New Year's Six Bowl since 2018. So this is, going on 3 years now. It's a stat since like 2007, every single senior class has played in at least one conference championship. So this is it, because this is the fourth year. This is going on year 4 without being in the championship game. So this is to keep that streak going alive. We got to get to the AAC title game. But going back to those stakes, it's just so exciting to be in this position. So like I said, it's been 3 years since we've been in the race, let alone get to the title game. Or win the championship. It's been 3 years since we've been to a major bowl game. It's been essentially 3 years since we've been ranked in the middle of the season. 2019, we finished in the top 25 after beating Marshall in the bowl. And then in the COVID season there, we start the season out ranked, and we got as high as number 14, or maybe it was 11, I believe. But then we lost to Tulsa and we completely tumbled out of the poll and haven't made it back since 2020. So we're talking whatever that was, week 3 of 2020 is the last time we were really ranked in the middle of the season. And then obviously we got ranked, 2 weeks ago after beating Cincinnati. And we're playing another ranked opponent, our second ranked opponent of the year. We toppled Cincy when they were ranked 21, I believe. And now we get to go up against number 17 Tulane on the road. It's just the stakes are at an all-time high. For the season. If we win this game, we are by far in the driver's seat to not only get to the conference championship, but host the conference championship at the Bounce House, which, as we know, hasn't been since 2018. So it's just exciting. Obviously, if UCF loses, there's still a path to get there. But right now, we control our own destiny. We beat Tulane, then we have an easy end of the season. We get Navy at home. We're undefeated against conference opponents at home this year. And, we don't lose often at the Bounce House. And then we have USF, who's a dumpster fire, fired their coach they have one win against an FCS opponent this year on the road. But that should be obviously a very, very, very winnable game. It's a rivalry, so you never know what happens. But the point is, Tulane is our final test of the season. When we lost to ECU, it was, I was like, wow, we're going down a path here where it looks like it's just going to be a repeat of the last 3 years. That was obviously, just one conference loss, but I was like, hey, basically that gives us no room for error. We had Cincinnati coming up after that. I thought, wasn't looking good, especially how bad they looked in that game against ECU with 13 points. I was like, this might be over. The season might be over. We rebounded, beat Cincinnati, beat Memphis on the road, finally got over some of our road woes. And now this sets up this monumental contest against Tulane. I just couldn't be more excited for this game. Obviously, I have my concerns. It is on the road. UCF is not great on the road this year. Obviously, we lost to ECU on the road. We beat FAU on the road. We beat Memphis on the road. So we're 2-1, but FAU and Memphis were obviously easier opponents. Whereas ECU, our best opponent we faced on the road so far, we got destroyed. So we go up against Tulane, which it's interesting. I put this tweet out yesterday. I said, if you would have told me that with UCF's season on the line in November, with a chance to basically lock up the conference championship, would come against number 17, 8-1 Tulane Green Wave on the road in November, I would have said you're crazy. Because we've been in the conference with Tulane in both the American and in Conference USA for whatever it is, almost 2 decades combined. And let's be honest, they've always been a bottom feeder team. That's been a team that we rarely lose to. They're a team that went 2-10 last year. This is a team that we are used to seeing at the bottom. I think I saw in a podcast yesterday, in the American, their best ever finish was 5-3. They've actually only finished with a winning record in the conference one time since being in the American, which is since 2013. So we're almost talking about a decade here. And this is a team that UCF has historically dominated, kind of been that our Vanderbilt of the SEC, if you will. Overall, UCF is 9-2 against them. The only 2 losses were in 2006. So that's, obviously Conference USA days before UCF was the program they are now. We lost in New Orleans 10-9. And then what's the only other loss? I'm sure you could guess it. The 2015 year when we literally didn't win a game and every team we played beat us. So, and that year that was also in New Orleans where we lost 45-31. Overall, though, like I said, we're 9-2. We've won 4 straight. We've had, let's see, like in 2016, we beat them 37-6. Actually, but since then, it's been some pretty close games. In 2019, I remember that game with under Heupel. We almost blew it on the road, but we ended up pulling it out 34-31. Then in 2020, we beat them pretty badly, 51-34. And then last year, we remember the game in Orlando. We won 14-10 and just a defensive, ugly slugfest that we almost blew that game too. So we've had some close games against them, but we are dominating the series. We've won 9 out of 11 games. But this is a different Tulane. This is a different Green Wave that we're used to, right? They're 8-1. They're nationally ranked. This is the first time they've been nationally ranked. I think some stat is since 1998 when they were undefeated. They had an undefeated perfect season. So that's over 2 decades since they've been ranked. This is the first time since the 40s that a ranked Tulane has hosted another ranked opponent. That's how long it's been since they've been in a ranked matchup with another ranked team, which is pretty crazy. And that was when they were in the SEC, which is pretty crazy as well. This is a different Tulane team. If we look at their schedule, they've beaten some decent teams. They're obviously their notable win. They beat Kansas State on the road in Kansas State earlier this year, 17-10. And we know Kansas State, is 6-3 right now, and they're number 19 in the country. And this is a Kansas State team that beat Oklahoma State when they were top 10, 48-0 this year. So Tulane beat a legit Kansas State team. Some of their other wins, out of conference, the rest of their schedule was crap. UMass, Alcorn State. Their one loss, though, is interesting against Southern Miss at home. They lost to them 27-24, which seems random. They could be having a perfect season right now if it weren't for that. Then in conference play, like I said, they're 5-0. They've beaten Houston, ECU, USF, and Memphis. And Tulsa. So if you look at that, they beat a Houston team that's decent, 5-4. I would say their best win definitely is ECU. ECU is right now, one of the top teams in the conference. Obviously beat us. They're, ECU overall is 6-3, and they sit in 5th in the conference right now, are tied for 4th. And they beat them 24-9. So they really, beat them pretty bad. Whereas, we lost to them, got blown out. And then, other mutual opponents, Memphis, they beat 38-28. We beat them by a touchdown. So pretty similar there. So, I think their biggest win is Kansas State, which that to me proves they're a legitimate team. Obviously, they're good at home. What this game is going to come down to is a couple different factors. Obviously, the first thing is who's the quarterback. At this point, Gus Malzahn has been coy this entire week. As we know, Mikey Keene has been the starting quarterback or the quarterback for the last 6 quarters. Obviously, he filled in for JRP when he got that concussion in the Cincinnati game and led UCF to a win after being down in the 4th quarter. Looked amazing doing it. I've talked about that on my Substack, on my Instagram. And then, last week against Memphis, came in and threw for 3 touchdowns and looked good. Had 1 pick, but overall looked really, really good. Made the offense more efficient, made the offense flow better. They just seemed in sync. The receivers did really well. The running backs did well. The O-line played great. It just looked like a truly, the offense has been good this year. It's obviously been hit and miss, but it's had its amazing moments. It's had its poor moments. But the last 6 quarters have just been humming. It's not like we've, 35 points against Memphis or 25 against Cincy. It's not like we're onslaught of offense, but the offense just looked good. It's looked smooth. They're moving the ball, and they're looking good doing it. So who starts on Saturday? Is it Mikey Keene or is it JRP? As I said, Malzahn has been using the same quote he's been using the last 2 weeks. It's day to day. Now he shifted his quotes a little bit. Yesterday he started talking about we have 2 QBs that can win. We're lucky. We're fortunate that we have 2 QBs that can lead us to a victory. We're in a position where we have 2 startable quarterbacks. Now I've said that I think he would go back to JRP when he's healthy. Now, to me, it's sounding very Gatewood Keene-ish type of situation from last year. What do I mean by that? It feels like Keene is going to get the start. I don't have any inside knowledge on that, but it feels like he's going to get the start. And it feels like JRP is going to come in for running situations, maybe some trick plays, maybe some passes. Obviously, if Keene struggles, I think he'll not hesitate to keep JRP in for multiple series, maybe go with the hot hand. If Keene leads a touchdown drive, he keeps him in, and leads another one, keeps him in, has a couple 3 and outs, takes him out. It does feel like Keene gets a start, but JRP is going to play in this game as a runner, as a trick play, maybe even some catches. We know his experience at wide receiver. He did at Ole Miss. So that's, the first key to the game. And it's going to matter because, Tulane's defense is legit. That's what's led them to this 8-1 record this year. So just some stats for you for Tulane. So Tulane ranks number 11 in the country in scoring defense. They give up a measly 16.9 points a game. I mean, they're holding their opponents, well under 20 points a game. And UCF is right there with them at 18.8 games, but their defense has been legit, 11th in the country, like I said. Then as far as like individual, they are number 16 in just total defense. So they give up just 307 yards a game, which puts them at number 16 in the country. So they're pretty stingy there just in giving up yards and obviously not allowing teams to score. And then if we look at the passing yards per game where Tulane sits, they sit at, let's see here, they're top 20 here. They give up just 180 passing yards a game. So their secondary is legit. They're in the top 20, like I said, just 180 per game. And then if we look at their rushing yards, let's see how their defensive line is. I'm pretty sure it's pretty good. Okay, so their rushing is only 127. That puts them not really top. That looks like more about top 40 in the country at 127 yards a game. So their rush defense is good. It's not elite. And that's where I think UCF can capitalize. As we know, UCF is one of the best rushing teams in the country. With between how much Harvey has exploded recently and obviously still Bowser, UCF is still 8th in the country in rushing yards at 240 per game. So that could be an area we could capitalize on. They have I would say a middle tier, at least statistically, run D that we could possibly capitalize. And their secondary is legit though. So that's why I'd like to see kind of Keene. And that's where maybe, JRP with the running, if we could take advantage of their run defense, JRP would have some value there, but passing, I'd feel a lot more comfortable with Keene, just given how good their secondary is. Offensively, Tulane, I wouldn't call them a juggernaut. They are led by Michael Pratt, who's, looked really good and really improved in his second year back. After an ugly 2-10 year last year, he wasn't great. But this year, he has, completing 67% of his passes for nearly 1,900 yards, 14 touchdowns, and just 4 interceptions. He has been sacked 18 times this year. So that's definitely something to note. So he's susceptible to that. Then they're led by one of the top running backs in the AAC, in my opinion, and that's Tajay Spears. He's rushing for 745 yards, and he has 10 TDs on the year. So our run D is going to have to look out for him. I mean, this is an explosive guy. This is a guy that has a 75-yard touchdown this year, has multiple long runs. He's definitely someone to look out for. And Pratt, the quarterback, can run too. He's got 5 touchdowns and 251 yards. So we definitely need to look out for that. They're receiving, they don't really have a standout guy. They have Deuce Watts, Shea Wyatt, guys that are, Watts has 5 touchdowns on the year, but Spears is the guy that has, made their offense, decent this year. He's the guy he's a junior. I mean, this guy is legit. I've watched some of his tape and he's had some big games. I mean, he had 151 yards against USF. He had 125 yards against Memphis. He had 157 yards against Tulsa. This guy is a workhorse running back, and he does some dazzling plays. You look at the 75-yard run he had against USF. It was a special. I mean, the guy is good, so we got to look out for him. So they're good. Tulane is good. I know we're not used to it, but they're a good team, and it's going to be a tough game. So it comes down to the quarterback. Can we utilize our rushing attack against their kind of middle tier run defense? And I've said this multiple times. Can we flip the script, especially on the road? Can we get some turnovers? Last week, we took a step in the right direction. We picked off 2 balls last week against Memphis. We got a turnover in the red zone when Memphis was in the red zone. It didn't allow them to even get a field goal. That Devontae Brown interception finally got his first pick of the year. And that changed the game. That was the difference in the game. I mean, we only won by 1 score, right? So that would have been, they were in the red zone. That would have been at least a field goal likely, right? So, that was huge. That was a major thing for us. And then on the road, we know we're shaky on the road. We're 2-1, but our worst performance other than the Louisville game was on the road against ECU. And, we have not been strong there under Malzahn in general. Last year on the road either, we weren't good. We were undefeated at home. All of our losses that we had last year were on the road. This year it seems we're improved there, but still with this team, we're nationally ranked. We're number 22. We have a huge win over Cincinnati. We've won 2 in a row. We've built up some better habits. Keen's looked really good since he's come in. It just feels like this team is still, I'm not quite fully confident yet. You still, 17 and 18, you just hummed. You knew we were going to win. Even 2019, it was not as good, but you felt confident. This year, I'm still not quite there. If we beat Tulane, I will feel really good about our chances of winning the conference and then beating whoever we play in a New Year's Six Bowl. I really will. I want to see UCF beat a very quality, strong opponent on the road. We haven't done that in 3 years. We finally, I've harped on this and people have kind of gotten upset when I said this. I said, before the Cincy win, I said, UCF has not had a big win in 3 years. They haven't beaten a quality opponent in 3 years. Yeah, you could say UF last year. You could say Marshall in the bowl game. We beat a couple other teams that were like 7-5 finishing the year. No, we hadn't beaten a quality. I'm talking about a team that is legit since 2 weeks ago when we beat a ranked Cincy team at home that, they had only 1 loss on the year and now they're still 7-2 and they're going to finish obviously probably, double-digit wins or close to it. That's a quality win. We finally got that. We finally got over the hump. In 3 years, we had been feasting on middle tier and lower tier teams. Let's call a spade a spade. That's what it was. And now we finally got over that hump, beat a quality team. We beat Memphis on the road, which, they're decent, but it was on the road, which I like. But now the next and the final kind of test for UCF football to show that we're back, that we are, I don't mean we're as good as 17, 18, of course not, but that we're just back to being elite or, one of the top teams in the conference, one of the top 20, truly one of the top 25 teams in the country is, can you beat a fellow elite conference mate that's ranked away from the bounce house, away from the friendly confines of the bounce house. This is our test, and it is not going to be easy. I think Tulane, they already said the game is sold out. They're going to have a raucous crowd. They haven't had a team like this in a long time. They're excited. They haven't hosted a ranked matchup, like I said, since the 40s. So they are going to be very hyped and amped up for this game. This is a game that probably should have had College Game Day, but of course, ESPN being ESPN, they decided to go to Texas, a place they've already been to this year. But this is just so huge. And this is it. This is the season right here, guys. This is it. If we can take down Tulane on the road, we are in the driver's seat to accomplish all the goals we talked about at the end of the year. We said this year with the talent we had, the transfers we had. I talked about this ad nauseum before the season in the summer. We hyped up this year so much. We said we have the pieces. The only thing we were a little nervous about was quarterback and linebacker play. Linebacker's been fine. It's not like a strength, but it's not like a total weakness. JJB's been awesome. And it's been the quarterback play. It's been the inconsistency of JRP and there's been other issues. We know the offensive line was inconsistent in the beginning of the year. Obviously, the secondary is way worse than we thought it was, but the defense has had its moments where it's carried this team. The offense has had its moments where it's carried this team. It's been balanced. I'm not saying that we're perfect on either side of the ball, but look, at the end of the day, statistically, UCF is top 25 in both overall offense and overall defense, total offense, total defense. They're doing something right. The defense has had its moments. It's looked a little shaky the last couple of weeks, but we know about the red zone stat. We're the number one red zone defense in the team. We know offensively we're top 10 in rushing. So both sides of the ball are good. And we talked about this, like I said, that we felt this team had the talent. We're stacked in the running back room. We have some really good receivers. We had a senior Latin offensive line. We supposedly were going to have a stacked secondary. Maybe it didn't work out that way. We have an amazing defensive line with Tremont Morris-Brash and Ricky Barber. We felt talent all over the field. And maybe some of that has been dampered. Maybe our receiving core isn't as good as we thought it was. The secondary isn't as good as we thought it was, but it's the talent's there. There's still talent. It's just maybe hasn't come together as much as we thought. And the receivers, that could be more just because of the quarterback situation. But we said, if we were to play up to the talent level we had, we should be winning this conference. We have the best talent on paper in the conference. I believe we have better talent than Tulane by far. Maybe not by far, but by a lot. They are just a good team. They went 2-10 last year. You would think there'd be a mass exodus. They lost one player to the transfer portal, one. So this is a well-oiled, gelled team that has been together now for almost 2 full years. UCF lost a lot of guys in the portal, and they gained a lot of guys in the portal. So these are a bunch of new pieces. So Tulane, I think, is just the better team, but we are a better collection of talent. But we're coming together as a team. So I'll say it, and this is what we talked about at the beginning of the year. All of our goals right here. All UCF has to do is win this game, and everything we talked about, New Year's Six Bowl, conference championship, for the first time in 3 years, is at our feet. What are we going to do? Are we going to get the UCF team we've had the last 2 weeks, or are we going to get the ECU/Louisville team? We'll find out tomorrow, but we have some momentum going to this game. 2 straight wins, obviously the big win over Cincy, and we have a quarterback, Mikey Keene, that's looked very, very good and promising these last 2 weeks. We'll see if he gets to start again and how that plays out. But this game is a coin flip according to Vegas. Tulane has a 1.5 point. They're the favorites by the spread is 1.5 in favor of Tulane. So they're expecting a close one in New Orleans. And, I feel confident, but cautiously confident, because we talked about the inconsistencies of this team a lot. But this is it, guys. I mean, this is what we wanted. We wanted a late November game with stakes, and we have it. I keep reemphasizing that because to me, it's just so exciting. We have those stakes again late in the season. I miss the conference championship. Don't you guys? I want to get in that conference championship. I want to win, and I want to get to a New Year's Six Bowl. I want to go out of the AAC with a bang. This is our last time ever playing Tulane. This is our last time ever playing USF. This is our last opportunity to win this conference. And if we can go out winners of the conference and be, 4-time conference champs, 5-time conference champs, and go out with a bang like that, it would just be special, and it'd be a great way to enter the Big 12. Going out on top, potentially beating, like a Penn State in the Cotton Bowl or whoever we end up playing if we get there. But it starts this weekend. This is it. This is for the season this weekend, and I couldn't be more excited. So, I'll be excited to tune in and 3:30 in New Orleans. Let's go Knights. charge on and let's get that dub.